There we go.
Tweet, tweet.
I'll have the music as soon as we're live. Ready?
Ready.
It's the Lean Into Art Cast, the show where a couple visual storytellers get together, take a walk around a topic, and then try to turn it into some kind of useful, actionable thing. We think hard about visual storytelling, so you will too. My name is Jersey Droz, cartoonist and teaching artist. The other host is
I'm Rob Stenzinger. I do design and coding and facilitation of collaborative team stuff.
mm,
So I think I just kind of make it up as I go. But the I think both worked as far as your title. I think it just makes it all the cartooning sounded very emphasized and integrated. So
cartooning
it
and
fits.
teaching artist.
Yeah,
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, I'm an artist who teaches in cartoons. Yeah, I guess that works.
yeah. So yeah, here we are again. What? How goes Jersey?
It goes okay, Rob. We're
Yay!
we're both we're both a little bit tired and beleaguered, and I think that's going to be the part of the emergent topic for this episode. So, okay,
Yeah.
people who are downloading this, watching it, to people who clicked play on the YouTube, going emergent topic episode. What the heck is that all about? We record a show in between the Lean Into Art cast, right, Rob?
Yeah, it is called Extra Lean, and it's very much a off the cuff kind of show, and we're typically a little bit cheeky, and we have a lot of fun with it. Not that we don't have fun here, uh, there's some laughs now and then, but it's a lot of improvising, and we end up, because of our nature, finding topics pretty frequently, right? But they're not like premeditated. They emerge.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the fun of the show is like my favorite ones are the ones where we start completely cold, no idea what we're going to talk about, and then it just starts, and one of us just throws out a prompt, and the other one starts running with it, and then it just becomes this game of touch football until one of us gives the other one the look that says that was the last line, we're done, and then we stop the recording.
And it's often like the some kind of surprisingly some sort of surprise in that moment, and it's like there it is, or it's like this ultimate closure where it's like, oh, let's see, Peter Falk reading to Fred Savage, The Princess Bride, and when it all sort of comes together, then that's the end of Extra Lean.
Right, and I should be pulling up the Patreon feed so that we can. Oh, for crying out loud! As soon as I get there, I get like a little pop-up thing. All right, so I'll pull it up. That's on our Patreon feed. That's at patreon.com/lean into art. And oh my goodness, Rob, we've been also doing art sound off, which we should talk about in a little bit here. So like all the whole Patreon feed is like jam-packed. All of our microcasts.
Yeah.
There's extra lean.
Yeah, that happened last November too. It's pretty funny. It's all of a sudden it is podcast town on that page, because so we've said art sound off a few times, right? So
Yeah.
let's just describe what this thing is. So last year, you and I started our own art challenge, which we did one event, did a one-off art challenge as part of kicking off Lean Into Art, right? That was 30 classes in 30 days. But this was different. This came out of enjoying the kind of practice that we do here, right?
Right.
Yeah. So how would you describe Art Sound Off?
It's a monthly challenge. For the month of November 2015, we challenge ourselves and, by extension, the arts community to check in once a day with a 5 to 10 minute journal microcast, whether it's like a wrap up of your day, a rumination on a topic, sharing something that you're struggling with, something that you feel like you're making progress with, and then you share the results online with the Art Sound Off hashtag. And you, Rob, created an Art Sound Off Twitter feed.
You know what? I don't know which of us did.
Are you
Because
kidding me?
it was around for a long time. And so Eva of Bits Fair, right?
Uh-huh.
She tweeted at me like, "Hey, I found this Art Sound Off user on Twitter. It looks like it's and I think implied there was that, hey, this looks like it's part of the art sound off thing that we're all doing. It'd be kind of nice if that, then she said directly that if it retweeted what we do. And,
Oh, thank you, Ava. Oh my God.
and I could not deny that logic. And so, right, experimentally, I thought, well, let's see what happens here.
So it's Art Sound Off on Twitter. It's twitter.com/artsoundoff. And
yeah.
pull that up
Well,
too.
and that's an interesting thing. So we are we're kind of creating a beacon, and there's not like a lot of centralized hosting going on. It's very much a community event where you'd volunteer and post a thing and whatnot. But then inherently it forms this larger gathering. But we are facilitating, right? So it really did strike me as something that it's great to do, and actually having that mindset of like, well, yes, we are also partaking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
In it, but we're participants, but we're also facilitators. So why not try to help out in that role of, and iterate toward doing something more there, right? Which I bet there's probably more that we could do as well.
And so Ava's there. Robin White's been posting. Shadow Inktronics, who shows up to our live feeds a lot, he's been participating in this thing. So that's awesome. And then, yes, you just with one Twitter account, you can follow along with that, or just use the Art Sound Off hashtag, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed that it's so funny. Some folks just sort of grab the hashtag and use it. And well, okay, we all use words, and we might overlap. I think they're probably somehow there's probably an autofill, auto complete thing happening, and it's like arts all of a sudden sound off shows up, right? And anyway, so it's kind of weird with that popping up, but it's no big deal. There's still a lot of really good signal in if you check out that hashtag. But maybe if you do have the curiosity where you're like, yeah, I want to try it. Maybe I will do this. Please do include the hashtag, because that does let me know, okay, you're participating, and I'll retweet it from the Art Sound Off account. And a really easy way to dip your toe in the waters, since we're on the topic, is I think the Audio Boom app is pretty amazing, all in one, super quick way to give this whole thing a shot, because you don't need extra fancy equipment. You don't need a whole process of steps to turn your to make an MP3 file and add metadata to it and add artwork and all that kind of stuff. It's really all baked in that pretty amazing tool called Audio Boom, which is at audioboom.com.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago when we did our episode about art journaling, podcasting your art journal, right? But I can't emphasize enough how streamlined that whole experience is. Like, you could even set it to, like, if I remember right, it's been a while since I used it, but you could even set it up to auto share to different social networks, so you don't even have to really copy and paste a link. Like, you just open up your browser, go to that site, hit the record button, record your thing, and you're done.
That's pretty darn well engineered, very easy to use, and that's but then if you have more of a taste for it, then there's some of us who do create our own little MP3s and add all the other stuff to it too, which that's part of the fun if you're into that.
So I feel like we're already like several minutes in, but just in case anybody's still wondering, like, if this is just introduction or if this is going to be the episode, this is going to be an emergent topic episode where Rob and I sort of figure our way through it, live and unscripted. Like, usually we start with an outline, and the outline is very topic driven. Like, we take a topic, we try to break it down into a 10,000 feet up section and an on the ground section. But this one will not have that structure. This one's going to be more of like figuring things out as we go along, but if fans of Extra Lean will really dig this. And those of you who haven't tried it out, you're getting a taste of it with this one. Then you could say, well, this was fun. There's like 40-something odd episodes of Extra Lean over on our Patreon. But I wonder if I could take this opportunity to do like a little bit of is it housekeeping stuff, or is it just like sort of like wondering aloud for the audience? Like normally this would be something where I would like, post it on Twitter or post it or talk about it in Extra Lean, but you know, it'd be cool to put this to the listeners who listen to the main show because it concerns the main show. What do you think, Rob, about trying out using Twitch to stream some of the episodes of the Lean Into Artcast?
I've been very curious for ages to actually give that a shot.
Ages.
Yeah, like in internet ages, certainly. At least 5-6 weeks. No.
How long is an internet epoch?
uh, it's you know what, I have to do the whole UTC time code conversion in my head, and I just it's not happening right now. But no, it's maybe let's say like half a year where I sort of I've had a curiosity with Twitch. I mean, I would say roughly a year ago, or is it a little more now? Time flies. I've had an Xbox One, right? And so modern game systems come with this as sort of like an app or a channel that you can either, put your game performances into and share and stream as you play, or you can just sort of surf around and look for playthroughs and people who are entertaining who just play whatever game. So it's kind of a good reference tool, a learning tool, and entertainment, right? Where you just sort of find someone playing the game that you're curious about. And so I've used it a little bit as that, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty neat. And Ashley Knapp, who is has been a long-time listener, totally, no pressure, Ashley, if you're not currently a listener. But she was.
Well, she doesn't know if
she's
not currently a listener,
yeah,
Rob.
exactly. Well, that's funny. Yeah, that's true. So, interesting conundrum with that. I guess that made me feel better. So, okay, she actually does a Twitch stream now and then of her making video games process and her prototyping and stuff like that. And of course, she was a guest on the show talking about art journaling. I do not remember the episode number off the top of my head, but I
can look it up while you talk.
Because even outside of Art Sound Off, she'd done like tons and tons of sort of reflective journaling and whatnot too, and so it was great to have her on the show to talk about that. Anyway, Twitch, has become a curiosity because of that, where it's like why not use it as a tool to share the kinds of things we do, and we can even bring in some video game themes now and then too. Once again.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though, is that like Twitch recently just announced like a like a creative arts platform or channel on there. Did you read about this?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, there was the big generating awareness campaign of they did the Bob Ross marathon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. So maybe this is perfect timing. And as you said, it would be really interesting to hear what those of you who listen to this show think about that. Does that make you want to check out Twitch? Do you already, use it? And
right, yeah, we'd love to hear from you, like how many of you are already using Twitch, and what affordances and advantages does it have over, say, streaming live on YouTube? And my teenage students have all kind of come back to me to say like, hey, I saw you're on YouTube, but geez, why aren't you streaming on Twitch and then posting the video to YouTube? And I'm like, you can do both, It's episode 106, by the way, the one that Ashley was on. It was Reflection with Intention with Ashley Knapp. So it was a while back.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's perfect housekeeping. So yeah, good question. We'll have to follow up on that one.
I mean, you can have it anywhere, but you're kind of making a deliberate choice when you pick one or the other, right? Whether you pick Twitch or whether you pick Google Hangouts or whatever. Are there any others right now that are really big? I don't even know.
Well, I mean, the place that you create with is very influential on what
right.
you're making.
That's what I was driving at, yeah.
And there are creators where I know that the folks behind the Lost Decade games the Lost Cast, they will do sort of like short tutorial and or so working session kind of streaming on Twitch, and it's typically them just working through a problem or exploring certain changes to their game,
Hmm.
and sort of sharing that as a work session. And from what I can tell, I mean, Twitch is really interesting with the whole ecosystem of tools to help. This is the other thing I got curious about, where they'll like throw in additional layers of info on the screen, and then you can actually feed those layers of info with data, right? So maybe it's the certain events in the chat, or some folks who are streaming will gamify how they make money off of that whole thing, where they will say, if I get whatever 5 more paying subscribers, I'll eat a bug, or that kind of thing. I mean, literally, it's that kind of performance too, where they're turning it into like this other layer of what's happening is they are an entertainer and interactive one at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, not that I don't know. Do you want us to eat a bug, everybody?
No, I won't do it.
I won't do it. Yeah,
Not
but
because of its grossness or anything, but because that's killing an animal for entertainment purposes. That's pretty
totally.
grody.
Yeah, not that I'm offering it, but and I'm. It sounds jokey, but really, that's the kind of thing that happens. Like that's what
Right.
and it mixes. But that's not the part that I got excited about. What I got excited about was what was nerdy and like laying over the data on the screen. Like they're animating stuff on the screen based on like this feed of data that's happening.
I love how you're backtracking now. I wasn't thinking that you were excited about the bug eating.
Okay.
I conceptually, you're talking about if it's if this then that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do this, I'll do that, right? That's the
But
mechanic.
that's one of the layers. Like sometimes they'll have that kind of feedback in like a graphical overlay happening on the screen, right? But you can do lots of things with graphical overlays, not just bug eating teasers.
There's one person listening who's like, "Get off of the bug eating." No, we can't. That's weird.
Yes. So right, that is like, whereas like YouTube streaming and whatnot, that whole layer of, I suppose it's possible there too, but it doesn't feel as integrated, whereas it's very common in the Twitch thing, and it's partially because of how you end up sharing your screen to Twitch. It often involves running a separate app.
Mm-hmm.
That separate app may be capable of loading overlay type things, and then you run programs that would then fetch data, display it in an overlay.
Brainstorm. How?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked to see if any cartoonists are using this yet, but how could you use those overlays with a comic? I'm curious.
Well, you could convey you could give a context to what you're currently working on. Like right now, so imagine you have foot pedals underneath your desk as you're doing your comic, and all of a sudden, boom! This is what I'm thinking about: word ballooning, foot pedal. I'm thinking now, doodle, doodle, doodle. You see animated hand on the screen. You see Jersey's face on the camera, and all of a sudden, big change in expression. Then he hits another foot pedal, which changes the overlay again, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oop, I need to work on my color palette or whatever." I don't know. I'm sure your whole process is not necessarily that chaotic, but foot pedals, right? You can
Actually, have you heard of the Chris-O-Matic show by any chance?
I have, and I regret that I have not checked it out yet, though.
I was actually a guest on it once, and it's streamed live on Ustream, and it's Chris Mariano of the Omatics, the band, brother to Mark Mariano, super talented cartoonist who comes to Kids Read Comics quite often. And the whole thing is done like if you've ever, oh my gosh, it's like watching an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse, but with like it's live streamed, and he's the only dude, and he's running all the puppets through like just like a elaborate system of pulleys and foot pedals, and then he's got multiple cameras rigged up. So he's like switching to all the puppets, so you don't even see that it's all part of one set. Like it looks like, oh, we're in another part of the playhouse now. We're looking at this robot puppet talking over here, and Chris is doing the voice, but like he switches in times that you never see what he's doing, and it's this crazy seamless kids show streamed live on UStream. That's what it made me think of when you said like
Wow.
pedals.
So right, I guess yeah, I've through osmosis of this kind of thing existing, yeah, that sounds fun and worth trying. And I really got to see that show now.
Actually, Kaya would probably dig it. Like it's actually like perfectly safe for a kid that age.
Mhm.
So, but another thing, I was looking at some Twitch videos, and I noticed that this was like a thing with some of the popular ones, like the popular drawing ones, is they have the overhead cam looking at the desk or the live stream of the screen, but then they chroma key the artist in over top of it. Have you seen this?
Like in like the same performance as they're drawing.
Yeah, so I'm going to
Okay.
sketch it out real quick. I'll sketch it out on a card. So like, like here, that box that I just drew
Mm,
is like my canvas in Manga Studio. But then in the
okay.
bottom corner will be my head and shoulders and the pen as I'm working. So you're watching me work while you're watching me work, right?
Okay, that's pretty cool. And that is absolutely possible with the right setup.
And as I was watching, I was like thinking, like, is that really necessary? Is it really necessary to see my face while I'm working? But I bet there's like an added aspect to and this is me just wondering aloud. I bet there's an added aspect to the performance of watching the person's expression and watching them laugh when you post comments in the live stream and everything. Um,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
it's absolutely having you displayed helps with it's connecting with not just your art, it's connecting with you too. Like, well, much like when you do other content to support your work, when you do behind the scenes work and you share that, or you do podcasts that mention your other work and that kind of thing.
right, yeah. I'll have to spend some when I get some time. I'll have to spend some time looking at Twitch to see. But the reason I wanted to bring it up too was just to put a call out to the leaners. If anybody's messed around with it, what would you call like the one killer feature for you? Like what makes you feel like this is so much better than other streaming services that I've used, right? Because like I'll tell you, as a lazy guy, well, lazy, am I lazy? I'm kind of lazy. I appreciate efficiency. What I love about Hangouts is there's not much to run. It's just use the browser and I'm off and going. And yes, the functionality is kind of limited, but I could do like cool screen sharing and stuff, and it's like it's not too bad. It's like right, but
Yeah, it has some capabilities
yeah,
and is overall a pretty amazing platform. I mean, we experimented with Adobe Connect before this, and
right.
it has some strengths, but it definitely wasn't as easy and reliable as Hangouts. Huh.
No, maybe it's changed since then. I don't know. I haven't played with it in years, but
It,
I'm
it
always
has
I'm
its
always
tempting things because it has really cool features. Like when we used to do like live whiteboards with it, and put all these little panels next to one another, and yeah, it was kind of cool, but not as slick and simple.
yeah. But anyway, I don't know if this is like a segue into talking about the thing we were talking about before we started recording. Do we want to go there, Rob? How you feeling? How you feeling about going there?
So we've talked about so many things.
You don't remember?
Yeah, I remember. Oh, let's see. I remember it was an uncomfortable topic, and then I kind of had I had this meta. So now this might be the topic.
Meta. Oh.
Yep. Looking at that other layer.
And then when Rob has the meta, I have the meta whoopsie doodle. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so one of the reasons that I haven't checked out Twitch yet is that oh wow, I'm hitting buttons accidentally on my Hangout. Is this things have been nuts this month, and it's not just because of Art Sound Off, and I think it's been nuts for both of us for a variety of reasons.
Hmm.
And and I kind of touched on this on one of the Thunder Punch dailies that I did for Art Sound Off, where I did a little essay on being tired and uh, really like double checking the narrative on that, because like there's part of me when I feel tired and I feel a little overworked where there's this voice that kicks in and says like, you're a pro, you're gonna show up, you're gonna smile, you know. Like when I go to teach a class, it's like I might be dragging just before I walk in that room, but when I walk in that room, it's performance time, and I'm gonna be on, and I'm gonna be attentive to those kids' needs, and I'm gonna be operating at peak efficiency, because that's what you do when you're a pro. Um, but then like, and that feels good to operate at that capacity for like an extended period of time, but eventually you run the risk of burnout. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of like wondering, that episode was me on my own wondering aloud about the value in checking that narrative. And as I was even talking about it, I was like, boy, I bet Rob has thoughts on this. I bet Rob's got a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, I was yelling at my podcast when I was listening to it.
You were yelling at me?
No, I just, I, I was, no, I identify with it, and I think others did too, because I noticed that gained some comments and tweets and responses, right,
Mm.
where, I think a lot of us who, let's see, um, I don't know how common it is, but like there's just typically a lot of hats and a lot of layers as far as doing some kind of creative independent thing, small team things, or maybe it's your second job and you have a day job and a night job, and you know multiple other hats and what have you. But and even the creative process itself lends plenty of opportunity to be um, putting a lot of effort in like many different buckets to finish a thing, which I think does. So I would guess there are a lot of factors that could lead to many of us, even if we come from a different circumstance, having this commonality of saying like, yeah, I think about burnout. So, yep.
I feel you, bro. No, but okay.
That was way more
So
efficient.
what?
I feel you, bro. Is the other way to say everything I just said.
No, no. I feel you, bro. It is kind of vague when you think about it. Um, it's just so. What do you do to recover, or what do you do to avoid it? Right? Like if you sense it coming, how do you get out of its way, or do you not?
Well, let's see. I th- I think it depends on what are you trying to exercise. There's sometimes I'm in a situation for a few different projects where I'm in territory that is not really my strengths, and at the moment, because some of it's new, and I think I will be pretty good at it at some point. But like, there's a few of these things going on simultaneously at the moment, as far as some computer science things I'm studying, and a couple different. Uh, it's a lot of it's tech things that are outside the neighborhood where I have practiced a lot. And that, I think, so it depends on the thing, because now that has this promise of like, well, whatever, if I am tired or uh, just having to work through some kind of resistance against feeling ineffective, right? uh, there's an attractive aspect of it too, because it's sort of this investment to create more capacity. So it's a reason to get excited about it, even though it is annoying or challenging, and doesn't always feel awesome.
But I'm gonna throw a little uh, switch track in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, it doesn't feel good to feel ineffective, right? Like when either you're learning a new skill or you're cranking on something that you do have a skill in, but you don't really see any, there's no return on it, and any tangible return, right? You're just in the grinding phase, or maybe you feel like you should be past the grinding phase and there should be some returns by now, and there hasn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either way, big problem is you feel ineffective, which is an uncomfortable place to be. You have constructed a narrative there where you said, I'm building capacity. I am anticipating some kind of return. Burnout, I feel like, is having a sense of maybe there's no return. Maybe there's no return on its way, right? Maybe there's no payoff is coming, and it's going to be like this forever.
That's bleak. But yeah, it does. I sounds very accurate. And that's that. So my immediate task, anytime I've been in that mode, is to try to not be in that mode, and whatever it takes to try to reframe it.
Okay.
Because I
I was
know
going
I
to make fun
can't
of you until
win.
you said that. What do you mean reframing?
What do I mean reframing? It's reframing is seeking a different way to see the situation, and a
Hmm.
lot of it can be through trying to find another like plausible narrative, not just something baloney, and like if I do this, um, it's funny. So the long pause is like, this is me being uncomfortable, Jersey. So um, I know like at different times growing up, I'd be stressed out, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I would do, I think this is probably I had, um, even though I have gone to counseling at different times in my life, like this is something I don't had this not been diagnosed or whatever, but like this feels like it might be something related to obsessive compulsive or something, right? Where it's like if I would make bets with myself, right, to try to get out of a mindset, and the bet I would be like, I can I can get from here to my front door in 5 seconds or whatever, right? And if I did it, I felt good. I met a promise to myself, and that was this little kid me would do that.
Uh-huh.
And I think I still do that to some extent when I'm
I
trying to
did not know
reframe.
this.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting way to get around it, is to like slowly build yourself up with like fulfilling tiny promises,
Mm-hmm.
accumulate enough of them. Huh. See, I oscillate between like a harsher standpoint of like, slapping yourself in the face kind of mentally, like, come on, snap out of it. You're not gonna be like this, little what are you, a wimp, versus like, all right, I'm hearing some stuff going on here that it's not good for you. You need to get away from things for a little bit. You need to go and be like quiet for a while, right?
Hmm.
Um,
So change of scenery.
Change of scenery, going for a walk, etc. But what that's about is for me, it's acknowledging that it's just a feeling, and I gotta let
Hmm.
that feeling happen, right? And this comes from like years ago. I used to meditate, and one of the things they tell you in meditation, like focused kind of contemplative meditation, is it's not about emptying your mind, and it's not about being blank. It's about letting the thoughts just kind of go and not getting in their way. And like like when you first start, you're like, oh, I had a thought. I'm failing at this thing. I'm not doing a good job of it. I suck at this, right? And the whole
Right.
idea is to get past that frustration and say, well, that was a thought. It's gone now. It's just a thought, right? So objectively, when I'm feeling that burnout and that pressure and that sense of fatigue and uh, bleakness, right? I know it's just a feeling, and so okay, let's go someplace where we can let that feeling happen, so as not to interfere with what needs to happen here, right? Because if I operate with that feeling here, with the pen on the paper, it's not gonna. It's just gonna compound things. This is not gonna. For me, this is just my particular method. We're both talking about our
Mm-hmm.
particular methods of coping with this, um, because this is when it turns into, dang it, dang it, why is it not happening, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
right? Because I'm operating out of frustration rather than just operating out of like some kind of a center. So it's like go recenter yourself. But unfortunately, you don't always have the time to do that, right? Like demands of life don't always give you a situation where you go like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for a 20. Hey, boss, is it okay if I go for a 20-minute walk? Yeah, it's no problem because I'm a really understanding person who has no problems at all in my life. You know, that's not always the case.
I see that as that I saw comic panels as you were describing that. Like even like you were facing different direction and whatnot, and I already love to hate that boss.
Well, or even like a more, if I want to be more gentle about that joke, I'm in a classroom with 12 kids, right? I can't just be like, oh, you know what? I got a headache this big and it's got etc. written all over it. So you guys will be fine if I just leave you here, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so over the course of time, you probably have chances to practice different options, and that's where I feel like I've benefited for me personally, making the small bets to create the capacity that when the options are few, um, even when the options are few, I tend to think it probably helps to see that there probably are more options, even if they're not obvious right now, like the headache in the midst of a commitment that isn't really Excedrin headache compatible.
Now, if this was extra lean, that would have been the title.
Yes. Uh, that exactly. Yeah, that's fun. That's the other layer as far as yeah, it's shaping the conversation, see where we go and whatnot. But that's
So you are
tr-
able to step aside and say, I know objectively that this moment will end, and when this moment ends, I will deal with it. I will deal with what I'm feeling right now.
yeah, that's where listening to different books that take different angles on that, practicing meditation at different times, and starting once again. Recently, I had Josh Renner on the Polytechnicast a few episodes back before Art Sound Off, and he mentioned this app that I've been using, and honestly, I didn't continue it past the free content,
What's
but
the app called?
it's called Headspace, and it's just a really nice, slightly maybe talks a little too much, but like a meditation facilitator. I don't know what they're called, but he does an excellent job. He has a wonderful voice and very good points, and he points out a lot of a lot of what you mentioned with um, becoming an observer to your own thoughts and seeing what happens. Your mind wanders around. You made this. You probably had a story when you said, "I'm going to go learn meditation." I go get this information, and now I know it, and now I can control it or whatever. And this
Mm-hmm.
is my paraphrasing, and because it's probably how I've thought of this kind of thing before too. And it's not. It doesn't tend to work that way. So as you experience it, you have these uncomfortable times of well, uh, my mind wandered again. I'm thinking about the frustrating thing I don't want to deal with today, or I'm ramping up to deal. But you know what? That's not what this meditation's about. I noticed I did it, and it's okay. And now, let's see what happens, and continue. So anyway, the knowing that the different I don't know the different situations, they're not permanent. They don't like stay there where like I can have a narrative if I am focused and stressing on a thing, like there's a project I want to work on and I haven't brought it to where I want it to be, and if that is a a building difficult thing for me, I can uh, over time, having practiced getting getting things shipped and feeling certain ways while going through the whole process, I can notice that, well, this will pass. And um, over the, uh, maybe not in this moment, I can just indulge my Excedrin headache, but I know I will be able to. I don't know if that makes a point of it, but
Well, it sounds like you have crafted a way to be able to trust your objective point of view on it, right? Because I think, for like at least in my personal experience and talking to people who've experienced burnout, it seems like it's mostly an emotional thing. It has very little to do with like rational, right? Like when you say, "I'll never get this finished. I'm never going to get this done." How realistic is that? Yeah, if you quit, then yes, you will never get it done. But if you're still doing it, then there's something in you that says, "I'm gonna get it done." But the feeling of never getting it done, or it's never gonna turn out right for me. It's never gonna like start paying off for me. I'm gonna be in this situation. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be the bottom rung of society forever and ever. And that is not to it's not to overlook that there are there are systems that keep people down.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like but I'm talking about like in the creative pursuits that you personally have control over, right? Is that a disclaimer or is that a qualifier? It's a
Yeah.
qualifier.
So part of the feeling of a feeling that can be difficult is thinking that it's this situation. I can't affect the situation,
Yes.
and I think that's wrapped in with what you were describing,
Yep.
and that's it's a terrible feeling. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that got heavy, Rob. I don't like feeling that heavy.
Yeah. Let's laugh
No,
it off.
but that's not to make light of it either. It's just that it's for me it's worth acknowledging that it's a thing and that like and I think what you were pointing at is that with time and experience and encountering something over and over again, you do accumulate enough evidence to be able to listen to that objective voice for once in a while, right? Like
And
even in
the
yeah,
practice and the trust and perspective. The perspective is a huge thing too, where if you do look
yeah,
back and you notice, you know what, I did finish a book. I did finish, or whatever the thing, you will build this stuff up over time as you overcome this and ride out the process. And that's evidence, that's feedback, which is I think one of the things that's really hard, like when you're in your teen years and you're concerned about a thing, and like, well, let's say there's the dynamics that exist in high school situations, or whether it's you know whatever pressures or things that seem super difficult. It's sometimes you hear the adults. Hopefully, you hear the adults say like it gets better,
mm-hmm.
and like there have been ad campaigns about that as far in hitting different kinds of difficulties as you're growing up, and that it's better than nothing to hear that, right?
But it's still an abstract thing to a
But it's
teenager.
super hard until you've somehow gathered just little pieces of that for yourself. And you
Yeah,
can trust it more.
yeah. And even if you do have a lifetime of experience, when you're encountering a new thing and it becomes difficult, it can be just as frustrating and irritating and scary if you don't have any evidence. Rather, even if you have evidence in other fields, because it's so easy and this is the whole narrative bias thing, it's so easy for us to construct a story to say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, that was that, right? That was engineering. I've got a brain for engineering. This is art. I can't do art. It takes a special kind of brain, you know?
Yep. Yeah, narrative is super handy. It's a great way to learn and share information, and it's also a great way to compartmentalize yourself out of being able to reach a solution because you wrote a story that doesn't include the solution.
Which reminds me, I've actually had like an hour to listen to podcasts in the last couple
Wow.
weeks. And it was right after I finished the Thunder Punch Daily where I was like, I'm going to go do some dishes now because I need to, you know? And I wasn't going to listen to anything, but then I remembered, hey, Rob told me to check out the You Are Not So Smart podcast. I really should do that. And what was the one that I listened to? It was the most recent one. Uh, it was the Naive Realism.
Ooh,
Did
I
you
have
listen to that
not.
one?
I haven't listened to that one.
So anyway, this is me just admitting it publicly. Yeah, you were right. I fell in love with the show. It was terrific. It was absolutely terrific. I don't know if you could describe. You listen to it more than I do, so I wonder if you could describe that show.
So if I were streaming on Twitch, you'd see all sorts of points go boom, 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 boom. It's like Rob was right. No, how would I just? How would I describe so David McRaney's show?
Yes.
You're Not So Smart. We chatted about this. It's really funny because the title can be a little bit brash or something, right? Because it's so in your face in a way, right? Where it's like, well, that's distasteful of you. You know, it's like
And
I
even
listen to your breath smells. You know.
and on top of it, the album art is a dude with his eyebrow cocked and he's got a mustache. It's like everything about the branding is constructed to make me go, I don't know if I'm going to fit in here.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously the field is way more impish than that. It's like it's amazing to explore how we perceive and misperceive things and go about making our choices. And he interviews amazing people on the show and has much expertise of his own that he uses to help explore the topics. And it's so it's a fantastic show. It's looking at like any like you've if you've been a listener to this show, you've heard probably heard us mention cognitive biases and logical fallacies, and like that is a show all about it. And it becomes a fun exploration of those things because it's not just, oh geez, look at this, we're so dumb. It's looking at how a lot of what the neurosciences and psychology are helping us understand how we perceive things better, and strategies to help mitigate our logical fallacies and cognitive biases.
Well, he describes himself as somebody who's just like really interested in learning how the brain works, right? And here, I got the site pulled up here. So youarenotsosmart.com/podcast. But the latest episode, Naive Realism, was pretty great, and it was all about how when you perceive like whatever reality you perceive, we have a natural bias to believe that that is the reality for everybody. In other words, and he used this George Carlin stand-up bit to explain it, where he says, like, have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anybody driving faster than you is a maniac, right? In other words, the speed I go is the natural, normal speed that everybody should go. Forgetting that there's a right, there's a whole range of experiences and background and you know, information and reasons why people behave the way that they do beyond your particular point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he talks with some really smart people about this whole concept of like where it comes from and how to detect it and how to circumvent it, and why it's a good thing that we do it too. Because like as he said, like, you know, part of it is based on the notion like when you look at an oak tree and I look at an oak tree, we both go, that's an oak tree. We agree in that objective reality. If we had to argue that point every time, we wouldn't get anywhere. Right?
That's, and I love that. I love it's not just the negative framing. It's also saying like, well, chances are we have that our quirks as a species have evolved along with us and actually likely serve an incredibly useful survival purpose, which is, I think, handy perspective. So
I think
you don't just have to like beat yourself up for having a logical fallacy, you know. Man, I got Ben Franklin again. Anyway, that's So that's I'm pleased to hear that, because if it's I've learned a lot, and I love the show, and his books are good too.
So we will link to them in the show notes at leanintoart.com. Yep. So, yeah. This is when we do Extra Lean, we would have found a line to end with. This one is not going to end that way because that's not how we do the regular show. Is there anything else that's going on, like housekeeping style, that we wanted to touch on the show?
Well, I mean, I think we have things in the works that still can't quite share yet, because we announced no wine before it's time or what have you.
Oh my God. 10 fun bucks to whoever catches that one.
Yeah, exactly. Hey kids, YouTube. Anyway, there's a thing that here's a concept I ran into, that so I don't have housekeeping. I probably should. I mean, well, we definitely need to mention our projects at some point.
All right.
And but maybe what I could do is say I do have something I wanted to bounce off of you, but before
Please.
that, but before
Ooh,
that,
is it a tease?
it's a tease. So, okay, lean into art. We have sponsors. It's us.
Okay,
And
so we're doing the ad spot now. Should
we're
I?
doing the ad spot.
Okay. Well then, should I? I'll just play the ad spot music while you talk. Go for it.
Okay. So, Lean Into Art exists because thank you for downloading, and listening, and you're part of why this is here. And we make this for you. And if you are enjoying what you're listening to and seeing on YouTube and whatnot, we have projects that help fund us. And well, one of those is so Jersey has a comic and products related to it called Boulder and Fleet, which is available at boulderandfleet.com. You're wondering, well, what's a boulder and a fleet? It's a couple of buddies that are super cute and fun animals. Boulders is this big tough, but gentle, thoughtful bear, and Fleet is this a little more brash and busy, cute little bird. And together they go about, battling the wrongs of the world and making the world a better place. And it's super cute and fun. Highly recommend checking that out at boulderandfleet.com and support Jersey's Patreon and go to his Gumroad store and buy the books in hand. Own a piece of this amazing work in your own home.
I like the way you said it. Then Rob has a thing that you should check out, and that is an iPad app called This Panda Needs You, which is just like a cool, fun physics game where there are these blocks stacked up, and they're stacked up all beautifully, and then this impish little cloud comes along and knocks them all down, and the panda shows up and says, well, this won't do, and you have to help the panda reset up the blocks, and that is at this-panda.com. It's super cute. Rob built the whole thing himself. He did all the music. He did all the art. So you're getting like true artisanal gaming experience with This Panda Needs You. I don't think you've ever tried to sell it that way, but I think that's pretty good. You're getting the full Rob point of view and experience with that. And then also, if you don't want to buy a game, you don't want to read some comics, we also have workshops on leanintoart.com/workshops. And you can go there and download Comics Fundamentals, 4 sessions, soup to nuts, like making your own comics, sound design workshop called Fatam, and then Rob's got making video games from your comics, storytelling to make your comics UI awesome. If you are a cartoonist, if you are telling stories visually, you understand UI and UX design, and Rob walks you through what you already know and puts a name to it so that you can approach your website design with more thoughtfulness and intention, and then turning jokes into comics, Laughing
Yeti, Monkey Spaghetti.
Laughing Yeti, Monkey Spaghetti. I got it right here up on the screen. It's leanintoart.com/workshops. And there's Boulder and Fleet. And there's This Panda Needs You. Okay, so ad read out of the way. What did you want to pick? What did you want to ask me to respond to, Rob?
So, I think this is I think it's pretty familiar, perhaps lean into art territory, but maybe not explicitly addressed. And the idea of, okay, I am setting my goals, and what I'm filling my goals list with? It's the stuff I'm not good at and the stuff I want to be better at, versus continuing to pursue the stuff I'm already feeling some amount of competency. And how do you navigate sort of overworking weaknesses or focusing on that versus strengths? And yeah.
In other words, how do I fit in new skill acquisition in the midst of all the other craziness?
I'm curious how you frame it up, and what gets filtered in more, or what would be a good way that you would just think about that right now today?
I want to think about that today. You're asking at a really good time, because this is the whole thing about never go grocery shopping when you're hungry, right? Because you buy all the wrong stuff or too much of everything. And I think when I'm feeling a little bit tired and kind of overwrought, that's a good time to think about new skill acquisition, what I would call new skill acquisition. What thing do I want to learn? What new thing do I want to start leveling up on? Uh, Not because I mean because at least experientially, like I feel like I've got enough experiences behind me now that I feel like I can approach it with a sense of realism rather than with a sense of you know avoidance. Right? I don't want to go through that again. That sucked. But it's like and that's how do I go about it? I mean, again, that's where like that ETP stuff becomes so handy for me is like recording so much
Mm.
so that I can go back and see where like so one of the things that I did this past week is I tried to put one less thing on my list of to-do items per day, right? Like, okay, here's what I would like to get done. Take one away, minus one each day. Uh, to try to create buffer zones so that I can reflect and react and absorb what's happening around me rather than just responding to everything that's happening around me.
Oh yeah.
And having tracked that, I mean, this is Thursday, so it's only four days in of my 5 days. But at the end of this week, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look through my ETP, my Emergent Task Planner from davidsay.com, and I'm going to look at where that time went, how it got spent, and there are times where I captured the quality of that time. Like, how did it feel? Was I distracted? Was I frustrated? Was I like,
Oh,
huh?
that's a great dimension to add. That's not explicitly in the emergent task planner.
No.
Very clever though. Like it's that kind of research is how the book and the theories behind flow came about, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was facilitated by researchers, so they were interrupting people at different times, but it more or less, I mean, when the study was done is back in the era of pagers, right? But then they would have essentially the research team would call the participants in the study and then interview them, right? More or
Oh,
less like,
wow.
how are you feeling right now, what are you working on, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And but that layer of that's so fascinating, not just the what you're doing but like how you're feeling about it. Sorry, I got excited about that.
I like it when you get excited. No, but like, yeah, I'm even capturing things like, um, you know, woke up at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Nightmares, bad sleep, right? So I've got that captured at the top of the day. So I know that when I'm going into this day, and it's not again, it's not to capture complaints to like show off like how tough am I that I muscle through all this stuff, but it's so then when I go through and look at everything that I recorded that day and where all the time went and how the time was spent, I have that data to measure up. Okay, when I have bad sleep, this is the way the day seems to shake out. When I have good sleep, this is the way the day seems to shake out. When I'm working at home a lot, this is the way the day shakes out versus when I work remotely. Okay, I'm working at a different location. Let's see how that time gets spent and what's the quality of that time. And I'll even put like because like okay, so for those who haven't seen it, when you start your day, you have fields to place what are the tasks that you intend to take on, and then there's these little boxes you can check off to estimate the time that you think it's going to take, right? And then when you track it in this column, you see how much time it really took. So when I see a discrepancy, I try to capture some kind of reaction, right? Lots of noise distractions today. The phone was ringing a lot. Not feeling good, right? Upset stomach, right?
Mm.
Things like that. Um, so my goal is at the end of the week, I'll look at how this week worked out for me, what didn't get done, what did get done, what was the quality of the time, and then that is how I would establish whether or not something new can fit into there, right?
Mm.
And if it does, if it can fit in, what time of day is it going to go? Is it going to be a morning thing? Is it going to be a night thing? Is it going to be an afternoon thing? Right? Because that also that's the time of day. If you start tracking your time carefully, you'll see there's different periods where it's like, wow, I'm really cranking on the stuff from this hour to this hour. It seems like on a regular basis. Like there's something magical about the between noon and 2 where I get like a lot of intellectual heavy lifting done, but then like 2 o'clock hits and it's like I need to not do something intellectual for a while. Um, and like so that seems like okay, that's a good time for physical exercise. But I wouldn't have had that information had I not been tracking it, right?
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, so you've created a tool to get perspective. Well, and the created a tool is, I mean, so you've adopted an existing tool, but continued to refine how enough of the feedback you were looking for to get the perspective, and uh, that is, I mean, seriously, that's really fascinating to where almost, because what I ask is kind of this oversimplified question that not in like a fakey way, but like that's how I can oversimplify, looking at like, well, if I'm going to add things to my list, I want to not have too many of them. It just doesn't feel like a fun uh, a mix if I'm focusing too much on weaknesses versus strengths. But like you're adding a lot of other context that sort of, it just almost, it honestly reframes that, and you tied it back to the whole initial point as far as you asked me more or less about like, what do I think as far as pushing through the
Yeah.
that kind of, that kind of feeling. And let's see, the thing that you're doing by capturing that as like that kind of journaling, adding a little bit of structure to it, it's it helps with, now I'm yeah, I'm just kind of spinning my wheels on this a little bit, like, but it helps you reframe, and it helps you, like, if you did push through, then you're able to like learn from what happened a lot to probably have a different stance next time. So it's not like
And
this systemic repeating thing.
yeah, and that recording and reflecting that information gives me more resources to figure out what to do when uh, something else comes up, right? Like so, like part of like this like the restructuring, like so I use Trello to plot my week. So I only recently found this out, Rob. Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind the times. I only recently discovered that Trello has the calendar view as well as the list view. Um,
That's new, I think.
is it?
Yeah,
That makes you feel
it's
better because
newish.
because I was like calendar view because like you can make your list, but then you can also see it plotted out in a week. And I was like, okay, so now I can actually like start to structure. Okay, this is gonna get done on Wednesday, this is gonna get done on Thursday, and so on. Um, so I used Trello to plot that out, and then like I did the -1, plot the week out, remove one thing from each of those, right?
Mm.
And then capturing the days as they happen on here. I got one more point that I want to make about how it's visual, which I really respond to, but when stuff happens like, oh, something happened this morning, which I thought I was going to get started on the day at 9. I didn't get started till 11:30 or something like that, right? Okay, well now I've only got 11:30 to 2:30. I have less time than what I originally set out to do. What time of day is it? And what kind of tasks do I typically excel at in this time of day? Right? What am I going to fight the least with? And not about asking myself, what do I feel like doing, right? Necessarily, but what am I most optimized to do this particular in my cycles in this time of day. And then that, even if it's something that I'm not like super looking forward to doing, kicking that off my list, it has an awesome positive feedback effect to keep me going. So then when I'm going to my 2:30 meeting or 3:30 meeting or whatever, I'm not feeling like, oh, I had to put the thing down halfway done, right? No, I kicked that thing out of my way. Now I can go to this thing with an open, fresh mind, knowing that whatever I moved to to replace with that other task at 11:30,
Mm.
I'm gonna be able. I'll have more time to do that tomorrow, right? Um, but then another layer to it too is that one thing that I really really love about this. I mean, this is just this is just like my approach to things is I have a very visual view of how the day is shaking out, right? So if I put 9 o'clock up here and I've got at 6 o'clock here, pick up Ann from work, I know that there's this much time for the tasks. And
Right.
as I'm marking them as I go, I'm watching that time shrink and I can estimate based on what's here on this column how much of that will fit there, right? So it's just like this really nice shorthand for looking at, okay, I can see how much time I have left because it's like this much, right? Maybe I think like a 3-year-old, Rob. I'm like, how much time do you have, Jersey? I got this much.
uh, Seriously though, like that that gesture is so much more tangible than like just a number in your head,
Yeah,
because it's yeah, just more, it's more physical, it's visual, it's like, and you have this relative simple comparison that you can make where,
especially when you like. I'm covering up like details here, but like you can
yeah,
see like when I have like certain tasks numbered and I have like arrows to represent. Okay, this task took that much time,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that kind of feedback loop is, it's, it helps um, create more of a um, informed perspective when you are planning. That whether it's just day to day or it's bigger goal things and whatnot too. So it's yeah, that's something that I haven't quite worked out as far as I would like. I I push back on myself with certain like getting too heavy-handed with goal systems because I don't want to feel like I've now rigged myself up like some kind of clockwork beast man. I where it's like, well, my cog won't turn that way. I have to, do this other thing.
Yeah.
And but I do think there's really something to like having that like a healthy portion or sprinkling of like quantified self habits and whatnot. So I think honestly, Emergent Task Planner is a quantified self type habit that is very handy. Like if you are benefited by getting measurable perspective and clear observations on that work, which can absolutely help with what you asked about in the beginning, which is all of a sudden you've got the data and you can trust like these are I remember this happened. I may not feel like I'm right there right now, but I know that I will be able to bring that about again.
Totally off the subject, but Caleb Jones is in the comments, and he says, "Hey Jersey, question from the audience: have you played Portal yet?" No, I haven't played Portal yet. I've just been talking about how tight all my time has been. It will happen. It will happen. I assure you. It'll be long. See, this is like a pattern my life takes. Is that I wind up getting super into something long after everybody's done talking about it. Like Transformers Prime, recent Transformers series from a couple years ago. Everybody was all hot and bothered about it when it was on the air. I only discovered it or rather gave it a chance 2 years later. And then Ashley Knapp was kind of commenting about that, about how 2 years later after the show is over, suddenly I'm in Twitter screaming about how awesome the show is, and nobody's there to talk about it with me, because they've already got it out of their system. Same thing could happen with Portal, but to put a cap on the end of this, our little ad for the ETP is that it's designed to capture certain kinds of data, but that doesn't mean that's all the data that you could put that you can or should put in there, right? I try to capture as much as I can think of in this thing. Even and I showed you before, when I go shopping, I'll staple the receipts in there. It's like this. I went to the grocery store this afternoon, and that was part of the way my day shook out, right? It's like I had all these tests to do, and I had to go to the grocery store at noon. This is where I went, and this is what I got.
That really, it's like your database journal kind of thing. It's yeah, I'm a bit envious of your current use habits of that. I'm like, that's kind of awesome. So,
Well, maybe if we ever do the Dear Data project, we will. This will be a good warm up exercise for us to do, figuring out what data to capture and what to share.
yes, I think you figured out what we should do. So yeah, I mean, the Dear Data project? I do not remember the URL that lives.
I'll look it up while you describe it.
There's a sort of a couple of let's see, data visualization type, human-centered design type designers who are really into various aspects of data and making it useful and approachable and visualizing it in interesting ways that provide a good narrative. And anyway, they're kind of person that is presenting at a conference called IO. And I cannot remember their names, but they're both awesome, fascinating.
Georgia Lupi?
Yes.
Lupi?
Yes.
And Stephanie Posevec. Right?
Thank you. And they have they each have different styles and whatnot. They're not exactly the same kind of cardboard cutout as far as what their skills and interests are, or whatever. But they are in this common ground of they're presenters at IO, and they connected and they hit it off, and they essentially came up with a thing they could collaborate on that would help them make something and explore their growing friendship or what have you. And it's this Dear Data project where instead of writing each other emails and posting on each other's Facebook walls, they made these postcards that were about visualizing a particular thing they wanted to become more aware of. So it could have been like, how many times did I smile at people? How many times did I hold the door open for people, and what was their reaction? And I'm kind of reaching here from distant memory.
Well, I've got one right here that I got up on the screen, Rob, and this is like complaints. It's a visualization of complaints. And can you see it? There's a line. There's two black lines that are vertically aligned, and then on one of the black lines there's a cascading rows of colored lines coming out of either side. One side represents inward complaints I made inwardly. The other side represents complaints made outwardly. The second line has another blast of rainbow lines, and that one, each of those lines represents complaints made to me. And she explains it on the second side of the postcard, where private complaints, outward complaints, complaints to me, type of complaint, color-coded. Yellow means weather, purple means husband, orange means animals, right?
Animals. That's awesome.
And then like main stats, private complaints, 67, outward complaints, 100, complaints to me, 43, number of people who complain to me, 5. So it's like just capturing a whole bunch of data about life, right? And which, at the very least, I would submit that would kind of train you to be more observant about things going on in your life, because like you're spending this week noticing complaints, right? Which is another kind of meditation, right?
Absolutely, and that was one of the attractive things where, to me, seeing this kind of project, it's totally how I get Tom Sawyered into trying new things, because it looks fascinating. Looks like there's something that I could grow and become like how I see the world will be improved by doing this thing. Or it's an exciting project. So anyway, after seeing this talk, so I believe Jersey, myself, and your wife Anne were talking about doing something like it. It's something inspired by it. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We've been playing chicken with like the idea of having a deadline towards starting it, but we haven't actually done it, right? So we'll see. Anyway, interesting.
Well, this is the time to be like thinking about it out loud, because we're in the midst of an art challenge right now with Art Sound Off, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
oh gosh,
it's like
now
the
data could be collecting about it.
Well, I just mean like also like when you're stretching yourself to capacity, that's a good time to stop and ask yourself, okay, what more could I fit? Because you have like a clear sense. Like there was something a couple weeks ago, and I won't name what it was, but I asked you about like, maybe I wonder if we should do this, and you said, I can't. You just laid it out flat. You're like, there's no way, I don't have the bandwidth, and like it was like totally like, oh okay, no big. But like being able to say that without saying like, well, let's try, and then being like, oh crap, right? That's the kind of thing like, when you're in the midst of it, that's a good time to ask, because you have a really clear sense of what your bandwidth is, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not theoretical. Like, what's it like to feel at capacity? No, Anyway, it's a very right. It's a good boundary to test. So yeah.
But if we do it, we will let you guys know.
Yeah, exactly.
Cindy Foster's talking about Portal now too. Oh, I heard Portal as I'm working and my ears perked up. Speaking of games, Undertale is an amazing one with a great humorous and deep story. It really explores the full expanses of what the gaming format can offer its audience, and it does a great job of teaching morality and consequences to your choices. Perhaps a bit off topic now, just adding my 2 cents. Back to working. So Cindy Foster, who works on a comic with her partner, husband, Jeremy Hobbs. It's called Oops Comic. You can find it on Tapastic. We will link to it in the show notes. So that's one of the benefits of participating on the show, is that you get a shout out in the show notes. But yeah, it's a terrific comic. You like really well drawn griffins? Read Oops over on Tapastic.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll have to check that out. Undertale.
Undertale.
Okay.
All right. Well, Rob, did we walk around a bunch of things? I think we walked around a bunch of things.
Yeah, and I think we had a general theme, and we'll see if, how people feel about this. People can actually respond to this after the show. You don't have to just be here live. Though, we typically do record every Thursday, every other Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, right?
No.
9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you for acknowledging the one time zone that matters to me.
Oh, the coasts. It's in the middle. Anyway, yeah. So you can absolutely participate live, but then after the fact, you can visit us on YouTube, and responding to the show is always welcome. And if you want to help share the show, by all means, give us a thumbs up, because that does help us appear more prominently. And just along with that, you can do the same kind of thing in iTunes. Just search for Lean Into Art, and of course, in addition to subscribing from there, if you're into doing podcatching in iTunes, you can give us a star rating. And if you can actually share your thoughts there too. So thank you to everyone who's done that already. It's very kind. I think we're at like a nice 5-star rating at the moment, so yay. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who's done that, and thanks to everybody who supported us on Patreon. We're going to be posting every day for the remainder of November as we cruise through Art Sound Off, which you can find out more about at artsoundoff.com. But if you check out our Patreon at patreon.com/leanintoart, you can support the show, make it more sustainable, and help us carve out the bandwidth to do even more awesome things with Lean Into Art. So, and thanks to everybody who supported us. I mean, there's some people who've been supporting us for a long time on there, and we sincerely appreciate your belief in the show and what we do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Rob. Well, I guess we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll wait to see what people say about this episode. See if this is something whether we want to start incorporating these as a regular feature, or if it's something where we're just going to keep it over an extra lean and then do this one as the more topic-driven. Keep this one as completely a topic-driven thing.
We'll see. I'm excited about trying this again, and different versions of it too. So maybe like a thought ahead prompt, maybe a prompt. Maybe we crowdsource a prompt. Maybe let's experiment. And also listen to what happens with our experiments. We're not going to experiment and run. We're gonna hang out and listen.
No, we both like the data.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thanks everybody for downloading, watching, and listening. Until next time, I've been Jersey Droz of LeanIntoArt.com and Jersey on Twitter.
And I've been Rob Stenzinger of LeanIntoArt.com and Rob Stenzinger on Twitter.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.